All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our very special conversation for Black History Month, talking about a couple of really phenomenal documentaries that chronicle even more phenomenal concerts and cultural events. The Summer of Soul documentary, which chronicles the 1969 Harlem Cultural Festival, and the Wattstax documentary, which chronicles the 1972 Wattstax concert at the LA Coliseum. So we're looking at Black history from California to New York and around the same period of time, see what's changed, look at compare and contrast the documentaries and what was going on culturally at the time, and even have some critiques looking back at history and the lessons learned. So we'll be having our conversation with a good friend of ours, Makeda Dredd, the founder of the World Beat Center in San Diego. It's World Beat Cultural Center that's right there in Balboa Park, really beautifully painted former water tower. You can't miss it. Does wonderful events all year round, and also is a concert producer herself. So we'll have Makeda here to introduce herself, and then we'll start the conversation. Welcome, Makeda. How are you doing today?
Hey, how are you? I'm good. I got a little throat thing, but hey, from doing my Legends concert, we've been really, in concert mode ever since Kwanzaa. So how you doing?
Oh, doing good. Just really excited about this conversation because, as you know, Summer of Soul did really well when it came out last year in the Oscars. And so I figured it was a really great time to have a conversation about the period and what these meant to the community, and to get your perspective, being around and doing cultural work at that time. So if you haven't seen the documentaries, they're streaming. I think Summer of Soul's on Disney Plus, and Wattstax is on HBO Max, and I think you can rent them on other streaming services and YouTube as well. Definitely worth seeing. If you have seen the films, you are in for a treat for the conversation and the perspective, and see them again with a new set of eyes. So just to get into the conversation, first of all, this is the 50th anniversary of Wattstax, and the documentary came out, and it's been in circulation ever since. But the story of Summer of Soul is that it was filmed in '69, and then they didn't have enough money to finish it, so it just stayed in a basement for since '69, and they just produced it, and I think it won some Oscars, and but it speaks to the testament of the film and the importance, because here we are at Media Arts Santa Ana, a media arts organization. It speaks to the importance of documenting your work, and a lot of small organizations or cultural producers don't have the resources to do that, or to do it in a big way like they did here. But you never know where you're going to be 50 years later. So it's best to have even the scratchy video and the blurry photographs than nothing at all. But we're fortunate that these two concerts were formally produced. And so we have great footage, great audio. They were both released as soundtracks when their documentaries came out respectively. And they really chronicle an important moment of transition in the in the Black community in America, politicization, empowerment, response to, and I thought the first time I saw Summer of Soul, I thought it might be a little more sanitized than Wattstax, but it gets into the nitty gritty of Vietnam, of the war on poverty, of economic injustice, of drug abuse in Harlem, and it's really powerful. Looking back with that perspective, Wattstax is very powerful because you get the same kind of messages, but from the people of the time, and they're very direct, not media savvy, just they're speaking their minds, and so you get that immediate response to social issues. But I thought that it wasn't as political as Summer of Soul, and so we'll have a talk about that, the differences of culture in and control in New York and California, and Southern California, LA specifically, which we see kind of to this day. So tell us, Makeda, if you can, like where you were around the time that these, what you were doing, how you, your background and how you were coming to consciousness, around the late 60s, early 70s.
Well, I was producing concerts, small ones, and then later on, I had 71, I had a restaurant. I just opened up the first vegetarian restaurant in San Diego, and it was called The Prophet. So that was quite an endeavor. And then later on, we started producing reggae music after I met Bob Marley. And this music it has to reach the people, because music is the one, and art is the essence of revolution, and revolution means change, and things are always changing in the universe, and you cannot stop change. And then I see our music being taken away from us. It was very hard for a person of color promoter to produce our music. And as you look into the Summer of Soul, William Morris agencies, I looked at that and I saw the agencies that did not trust the promoters, and so the agencies always have it in with the certain promoters or the certain club. So I had to break that whole myth that African Americans or people of color could not produce their own shows, because the sound companies were in on it, the venues. You can't even, book venues. So it's so great to have our own venue here, the World Beat Cultural Center. So I see today, when I looked at the movie, I see today that they had blues in each of the movies had blues and gospel. So blues and gospel at that time, people noticed at that age, knew the staple singers, or they knew B.B. King or Johnny Taylor, because your parents listened to that music. That's the music your parents listened to, or your grandmother. But they erased that music in our thoughts, and then they colonized the music. They've colonized all the music that we have and changed the parts that Bob Marley was singing about struggle. And, the oppressed people, they took out oppression. And you could see that in reggae music, because now it's European reggae music with the little guys that used to open up for Don Carlos or some of our shows are headlining. And then the Jamaicans who have died really poor, without health care, and if they are included them, they recycle them over and over and over again. And then they call it Cali Roots or Cali Vibe. And the bands that did really Cali vibes, like the Rebel Rockers and some of the Laguna Beach, these kids, they really Sublime. They had, Happy Birthday, Bradley, by the way. So these guys they knew, the white kids knew the struggles. And they were rebels, like Sublime and Long Beach All Stars, the ones that were Rebel Rockers, these guys that really started this. But then, like all music, when it got big and the money comes in, they snatched it up, got rid of the promoters and all the promoters of color. So that's why I do the World Beat Center. I used to be at the Sports Arena for 25 years, at the San Diego Sports Arena, a major radio station, 91X. And I really had to work hard and fight to be noticed, even on the radio station, and in this town, which was very difficult for African American and a woman, an African American woman. I mean, I had to deal with my sound company um, it was like I had to, good thing I'm a Leo, pretty strong, but I had to really face up to them and be really strong to get my shows running properly. And there was sabotage lots of time, that sabotaged my shows. So it was very difficult, but very rewarding to be a promoter. A lot of things that you have to learn. And that's why I'm going to have classes in event management for the young kids so they don't have to go through some of the trials and tribulations that DiMaggio Lee, which was my partner, Makeda Dredd, had to go through. And it would not be reggae here in this form if it wasn't for brothers like DiMaggio Lee. And so I give thanks.
Yes, no, those are all important points, and we have to pass the knowledge down to the next generation. I know growing up in San Diego that the Reggae Makossa show was regular and always there, and played artists that you wouldn't hear anywhere else in San Diego. And you would present these artists, and they had a huge following, they had a great message, really talented artists, influential and impactful. But you're right, without the independent promoter from the community, there would be no consciousness, awareness of them here. And looking at even the two documentaries that we're discussing, it's a combination of blues, gospel, soul, jazz. You've got Latin jazz. You've got Hugh Masekela from South Africa. You've got all kinds of stuff coming together.
See the difference too, in a way, because if you're in New York, you got Nuyorican. You got, New York is a little more advanced in that because they're all in a melting pot. They're talking about Spanish Harlem.
Right. And they have the city infrastructure to fund this.
You see the mayor?
Yeah, and Los Angeles has the LAPD.
And they had everybody sit down, and they had a riot there, so they wanted to make sure that never happened again. Then they wanted to keep they kept pretty good control. But I like Rufus Thomas. He had him come up, and then he had him sit back down. The only thing I like about that movie too is I think Richard Pryor, man, he was in there too much. After a while, he.
Yeah, that's what I was saying earlier in the introduction, is that's really unfiltered, and what they're talking about, what's on their mind, what they're going through. We're a little removed from that now, but they're speaking in their actual voice, and a lot of it's, like I said, just a little tough to hear. But it's a chronicle, and you see in the Harlem documentary the result of decades of Harlem being a cultural center. The Renaissance is happening in the 30s and 40s, and this community is a product of that. But in LA, you're 7 years out from the riots, which had the police brutality at their roots, and then you have, this is really the first generation of the people who migrated to Los Angeles looking for jobs after World War II from agricultural communities, and then those jobs were disappearing in the 60s. So in Harlem, you've got, maybe fourth or fifth generation Harlemites, and in LA, there may be second or third generation, and didn't have the economic opportunities or infrastructure, and faced an even more kind of brutal, repression emotionally than in Harlem. One thing I noted to you in an earlier conversation is that you look at the Harlem Festival, and it's in a park, everyone's right up there, there's no chairs, they're all standing together in a big crowd. And you look at the LA Festival, it's in the Coliseum, and they're in the bleachers like 500 yards from the stage, all sitting down. And then you've got Isaac Hayes that says he won't even come on if there's anybody on the field. Whereas the other one, it's like, yes, we're a big community. We know each other. We trust each other. We grew up together. It's a whole different sense of feel of what's going on in these communities.
Well, the Harlem they're in Harlem. They have seen Malcolm X. They've seen that's the platform that Marcus Messiah Garvey used. There's always people on the streets, speaking on Black consciousness. They've had a really jump on us here. We've had a lot of racism through the Mexican or Chicano history, where they moved the Chicanos off their land and back into Mexico. When I studied what they've done, what they did there, and also in other Texas and other states, but in California, we're really looking at a lot of divide and conquer, because if we Mexicans and our cultures were, would have got together, we would have been a force, and the indigenous people. So everybody was divided, and we didn't know about each other's culture. Yet, when you saw, when Ray Barretto came on, you saw it would be a Black person, but all of a sudden he was Panamanian. He was getting down, and you would see that Black color, and and you kind of wouldn't see that over to some of our salsa dances or whatever, or Sonorocho, not knowing that Sonorocho came from Veracruz. And so we don't have our history. We don't have enough of our history to know. So that's why at the World Beat Cultural Center, I exhibit Pathways to Freedom, shows our connection between the African American community, the enslaved Africans, and the Mexicans and indigenous communities. So it's all about us having the knowledge that, that we're, connected. Mm-hmm. We are connected, and music will connect us, because music, how could you put color on music? And food, all our food is interconnected. We eat the same. We're people of the sun.
Yeah, and the documentaries talk about the importance of music to communicate across barriers and languages. And music is a universal language, and it's interesting too, because once you get to New York, you're kind of a New Yorker. So you tap into, if you go to Harlem, you tap into that history and those communities, and you're embraced. California, for all that it wants to be progressive, has a history of erasure. So they'd rather just get rid of it and not talk about it. And so that's why, when the anti-immigrant people are coming, every election cycle, they make it sound like immigration's a new thing, as opposed to something that's going on for hundreds of years. And your center, you deal with, the culture and music of the diaspora, not just from the communities that got here in the 16 and 1700s, but that are people that are coming here today from Haiti, into Tijuana, again with reggae in Jamaica, and you operate in South America as well. So, looking at the African communities and countries there. So there's a need for that kind of connection and places to go in California, because the traditional historical model, cultural model, has been just to erasure. And then that leads to the division, because even as Chicanos, if you don't know, if you don't start the conversation with the fact that, the Spaniards came in the 1600s, you're always going to be at the mercy of people that try to paint it as if we all came in the 80s, so there's a certain rootedness that comes from knowing your history, and the history that's in the music. Like I was saying earlier, gospel, soul, jazz, blues, you don't really hear those on the radio today. And if you do, they're probably, white. If it's a blues song, it's a white artist, right? John Mayer and all these other guys, Eric Clapton, are played more than, B.B. King or Albert King or any of the Kings right now. And that's problematic. But here you see that this is the music, like you said, not only of the parents of the people of your generation, but the ones that were there in the 50s and early 60s became part of the civil rights movement. And now they're maturing. Even groups like Gladys Knight and the Pips, popular, the Fifth Dimension that are kind of on popular radio, that are kind of like okay, that people don't know they're black sometimes. They're getting political, I don't know if if you see it so much in the music of today, which tends, like if you look at Rihanna at the Super Bowl, it's a very corporate event, and playing just as much to an Anglo football audience as to a black football audience, but nothing political in it at all. Nothing speaking of the realities of the community, many of which are the same as which were happening back in '69 and '72.
Yeah, being flushed into this status quo type of music industry, having the fear. See, that's what money will do, and that's where the industry, music industry is at, and when anybody speaks out, they're dropped out. But what's happened, like you said, with gospel music, it's being outplayed. Our youth, they don't realize that the importance of gospel music and that played in revolution of our people, and in Mexican music, the importance of Sonorocho, at that time, and in Brazilian music, those long, same thing. There's those enslaved, Africans there were singing the different songs of which way to go, just how to run, how to escape, just like you singing, songs in churches. Wade in the water. That was like wade in the water so the dogs cannot smell your scent. And the North Star, all these things, because we as indigenous Africans or indigenous Mexicans and people from this land, indigenous Native Americans, we do not separate our music from art or science. And that's what on this science grant that I had with Cornell University and then the Science Foundation, is we showed that the trees were playing music. The trees and plants are alive. There's no distinction, that it's just a dead tree or whatever. And when we look at the stars, those are ways that we were guided in the Polaris. And, there's different things that really, had been separated and shouldn't be, because the kids of color weren't interested in astronomy. They would say, well, that's white man, that has nothing to do with us. No, your ancestors used that. They used it to plant. They used it to know when the beetles were coming in. I was in Jamaica and I gave this Nyabingi house, I donated for their thatch. And you got to repair that every year or every 2 years on their sacred spiritual house, and it's called a Nyabingi house. So, and that's liturgical sounds of Rastafari. So I was wondering, I go, wait, I go, hey, I donated money for you to put the top on. They said, well, we can't do it until there's this phase of the moon, because we know that the beetles are at that time in the palms. So everything is scientific, but it's by our indigenous ways of living and thinking. So this whole, this whole rhythm of music, don't keep out the gospel, because those are messages in gospel music. Blues, oh man, if you didn't have the blues, you're gonna have blues when you get to the blues. But blues were telling us everything. Oh, you know, you was with my woman, and I know as soon as I left, you came. You know, I left to work, you know, at 6 o'clock. At 6:40, you were there, you know, and you know, it's telling the story. Those are the griots. Those are the storytellers. And you know, Bob Marley, look at his story, amazing songwriter, you know, amazing person. But you know, you get these who's controlling the music now is controlled by, let's say, the dispensaries that are putting on money for the concerts. It's all about weed. You know, a lot of smoking. I mean, come on now. It's
Right.
content. We started more. It ain't about weed. You're gonna take it out. Take the message out of the music. Don't take the message out of the music.
Right, and I think in Black culture, the same as in Latino culture, is that to us everything is political, and you look at the causes and the solutions, and then you get into a corporate system where they're like, oh no, we've got to depoliticize it, and it can't be political, and it's got to be this, but that's also a political move, like you're saying. It becomes about selling, you know, a product or an excess of abuse of something, you know. And I saw that Summer of Soul was there was a commercial from the period from Maxwell House Coffee that they were a supporter, and they've got this thing about how the beans come from Africa, and you know that's you know, but the message of the artist and going back to these other forms that are in these two documentaries, like you said, they're rooted in community, they're rooted in tradition, they're prime and premier examples of the form. And it's not like somebody decided to say, I'm going to write a song and da da da. They are connected to a larger source. And the documentaries go into that, especially Summer of Soul, the meaning of the creation of the music. And I'll play a clip in a second where they're talking about, you know, the gospel singing. And whether, I mean, yes, you do have people that are more corporate, like the Fifth Dimension, or, you know, more, modern, like Sly and the Family Stone, but they're still rooted to those traditions. They came from those traditions, and they refer back to them. So let's show a trailer for where is it here? Okay, I don't know if you're going to be able to see the audio, but I mean the video, but you'll be able to hear the audio. So let's watch or listen to a clip from Summer of Soul talking about gospel music.
There's this notion of spirit possession that comes from Africa. It's part of seeking a certain kind of release and catharsis. This is an eruption of spirit to arrive at an inner peace through being completely expressively open.
Gospel was more than religious. Gospel was the therapy for the stress and pressure of being black in America. We didn't go to a psychiatrist. We didn't go lay on a couch. We didn't know anything about therapists. But we knew Mahalia Jackson.
Okay, I'll stop it there. And it's a shame that this clip you can't see the image. It's worth seeing the documentary because the visual representation, the chronicle, is so fascinating. It's in the moment. These are the performances are on fire. The audience is totally engaged. It's culture happening. in front of your eyes. And like Al Sharpton is saying there, it's like a therapy session. You know, it's necessary. It's critical. It's not entertainment. It's everyone is in the Summer of Soul is speaking to the moment. And so this kind of reinforces what you were saying too, Makeda.
Yeah, you know, gospel music, you know, it is from Africa, and you know that feeling you're coming, you know, when the drums are playing, you know, and the one code, you know, I want code, you know, when the percussions are playing, notice they had the percussion, and when that's happening, you go out of soul, you know, your soul comes out of your body, I should say. And I was in those churches, you know, and I would be so afraid sometimes because you didn't know who's going to go out. They just go out and the clothes come all over the place. I'm like, oh. So, and that happened. It wasn't staged. It wasn't nothing. It just, and you could see that in Contemplé, and you could see it in Santeria. You can see, you know, them singing to the Orishas, and then Oshun comes in, or a bottle, you know. So that is, you know, that music has been brought to you here by the enslaved Africans, and it's in all our music. And to take it,
go ahead,
to take it and sanitize it. You know, I know Breonna got a lot of money for doing that, and you know, and all that. I mean, I didn't get it, you know, a little bit. But why? I mean, you don't need that much money. I mean, you're already rich. Get your principle. Keep your message in the music that you can help, you know, our brothers and sisters. You know, I mean, a long time ago, those brothers kneeling down there and going to prayer, that was powerful, you know, and that brother gave it, you know, he gave up his whole football career.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to give it up sometimes, you know, give up, you know, and don't forget the message. Money should not buy you. That's, you know, we don't need, you know, we have to always, like you said, keep the message and keep moving on, because music is the weapon of the future.
Yes, and this is a good segue to show the trailers for each of the documentaries, which I was planning to do earlier, but we got right into the conversation. And so let me show the trailers for First Summer of Soul and Wattstax, so you get a sense of what of how powerful these concerts were. So first, we're going to have Summer of Soul.
Are you ready, black people? Are you ready? Are you really ready? Are you ready to listen to all the beautiful black voices, the beautiful black feeling, the beautiful black waves moving in beautiful air? Are you ready, black people? Are you ready?
Nobody ever heard of the Harlem Culture Festival. Nobody would believe it happened.
6 weekends with major artists.
The Panthers were the security and kids were sitting up on the trees. I was nervous.
I didn't expect a crowd like that. Something very important was happening. It wasn't just about the music.
1969 was a change of era in the black community.
The styles were changing.
Music was changing.
And revolution was coming together.
We are a new people. We are a beautiful people.
That concert took my life from black and white into color.
We wanted progress. We're black people and we should be proud of this.
We were coming together to say this was our world and how beautiful it was.
We're gonna try to sing a song together. Don't wait for your neighbor, because your neighbor might be waiting for you. Wanna take you higher? Are you ready? Wanna take you higher?
We believed in what we felt in here. So when we went up
go. Let's go do it.
Okay, so that's Summer of Soul.
Jelly Roll.
Really, again, watch these documentaries because they're so important. They're such important chronicles, but they're very inspirational, and the music is so powerful, and the lessons that they teach us through time. We're still facing a lot of those things today. So here is the 50th anniversary trailer to Wattstax, which is this year. And I think they released it in some theaters, so you might still be able to catch it on the big screen. But if not, you can catch it on HBO Max.
This is a beautiful day. It is a new day. It is a day of black awareness. It is a day of black people taking care of black people's business. I am black, beautiful, proud. I must be respected. I must be protected. What?
Children, look at me. If you don't respect yourself, ain't nobody gonna give a good girl. Nah, Brother Rush. I'll play the blues for you. Baby, don't you know? No other. If loving you is wrong, I don't wanna be right.
Okay, so that's a taste. Whoops. That's a taste of what you're going to see in the Wattstax documentary. And like I said, it's very gritty. It's very like of its time, and so not politically correct at all, but very politically direct. So seeing the trailers both kind of back to back, do you have any comments, Makeda, on just how each film captures the time?
I thought it was politically correct, because those brothers on the streets and the brothers in the barbershop talking, it's the same as today, and nothing's really changed that much. I mean, look how many homeless, more homeless people than it was at that time. And I loved it that we all had naturals. They all had all those naturals that was flying around there. I loved it. The barbershops were, so it was very people had straight hair, processed hair on that stage. I only saw about one processed hair, but the Staples, they had naturals. And it was a revolution. It was change. Everybody was changing. This was a new day. They were waking. That's when we got awoke. That's the time. Everybody was, was changing. They were like not straightening their hair. They didn't need to. They loved their hair. They loved themselves of being Black. And that's right now, it's still going on. It's still carried on. And I think it's a little more, I see more African people looking at their diets and watching what's going on. And they want to see what's happened. because it's been erased. So they're dialing deep into their history. They want our story and not his story.
Yeah, and I think naturals are actually coming back right now. But you know,
Well,
like I said,
what they went to is dreadlocks,
Mhm.
nasty dreads, you know.
and that music's always been good. Never sold out.
Always been good. Yeah, well, it is. It's been colonized.
Yeah, don't get me started on reggaeton because it's not reggae.
No, but don't get me started on sanitized reggae. You know that
Right.
stolen and they do the festivals. We don't have our festivals anymore. I used to be at the sports arena.
Yeah.
You know, so they've taken all of it, and they always take our music. That's why it's so important when it's small and we can, you know, keep the message and the music and talking and be the spook who's sitting by the door. It doesn't need to be all out there. That's when they went after Bob Marley.
Mhm.
When, you know, so we can do it, and we could have the same message. And as soon as it gets big, they're gonna get the artists.
Yeah.
They're gonna sanitize the artists, you
Or
know?
copy them and
Yeah.
sell that. You know,
Like Richard.
when I was asking you what clips we should show, I think we both thought that Nina Simone was probably one of the most impactful presentations from both documentaries. She's in the New York one, but I want to play. I know we're kind of running through a bunch of clips right now, but I don't want to, you know, leave them out of the conversation. And again, this is one where you'll hear the audio, but we're looking at Nina Simone's song "Mr. Backlash," or what is it? No, but the Backlash Blues. And she's following in the film. She's following Hugh Masekela, who's talking about apartheid and the role of artists in South Africa, being with the poor and the oppressed and the void, and coming from those communities too. So let me put Nina Simone on here.
An artist's duty, as far as I'm concerned, is to reflect the times, and at this crucial time in our lives, when everything is so desperate, when every day is a matter of survival. I don't think you have a choice. How can you be an artist and not reflect the times?
Ladies and gentlemen, we would like to introduce a young lady who tells the story about the troubles and tribulations of the ghetto, the new black struggle, the first lady of soul, Nina Simone.
We walked on water seeing Nina Simone. She looked like an African princess. She would bang those piano keys. Her fearlessness and her control as a woman, as a black woman, was just awesome. She was sending a message.
Mr. Backlash, who do you think I am? You raise my taxes and freeze my wages, send my only son to Vietnam. You give me second-class houses, second-class schools. I know you think that all colored people are just second-class fools. Mr. Backlash, I'm gonna leave you with the blues. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. Yes, I am. When I try to find a job, earn a little cash, all you got to offer is your mean old white backlash. The world is big, big and right and round. It's full of other folks like me who are black, yellow, beige, and brown. Mr. Backlash, I'm gonna leave you with the blues. Yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Nina Simone was filtering what was going on in this country through her experience as a Black woman. She knew what barriers she was breaking and threw them back in people's faces.
When Langston Hughes died, he told me many years before, he said, Nina, keep on working till they open up the door. One of these days when they open the door and it's, you know, it's open wide, make sure you sock it to them where they live so they'll have no place to hide. So I'm telling you, yeah, got to do it in the hot sun if it's necessary. Got to do it. Yeah. I'm gonna leave you with a blue. Yes, I am. Yeah. Hello, 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 hello. Remember Lorraine Hansberry who wrote Raisin in the Sun?
Okay, well, she's got a quite a lot of I think three songs in the set there, but always just mind blowing, but direct. You know, when Langston Hughes died, he told me many years, knock on the door till it opens and take it to sock it to them where they live, so they have no place to run. I mean, that's pretty direct, you know.
Oh, she was very direct. She was very direct singer, you know. If she didn't like the place or the crowd, she would get up and walk out. And I only knew another entertainer like that, and that was Laura Nyro. Laura Nyro, very temperamental. She was like the Nina Simone. So people should always, you know, look up Nina Simone and also Laura Nyro. I mean,
yeah, there's a great documentary about Nina Simone that came out a couple of years ago, and I think Laura Nyro just passed away like 2 years ago, right?
A little longer.
Okay.
Yeah, incredible. She wrote for a lot of different people, but she was like Nina Simone, very temperamental, and if she'd just walk out the room, and Nina would tell the audience off. She would tell it. She's incredible.
Yeah, the documentary is called "What Happened to Miss Simone," and it's from 2015. So that's probably streaming, but again, worth watching, because you see, I mean, she has a reputation of being temperamental, but when you see what her experience was, you know, she was very angry. She had a right to be angry, but she channeled that into some really powerful music that you see, like, you know, in '69, she's, you know, because it was you know, big in the early '60s too. She's already at her prime, at her peak, but just, you know, powerful. And it give you a sense, like if you're a young performer and you see these performers, it's really inspiring to see what, you know, is possible without effects and special effects and big production. It's just instruments and voices. But definitely we're seeing these two documentaries.
I just want to say that it was, you know, being a concert promoter for me, it was very important to see the Black Panthers being the security. And the cops would not be, they didn't want to be the security. Later on, they came in, but the Black Panthers were the security. And John Lindsay, the mayor at that time, came on stage, you know, and he was there. He was a Republican. They said a very liberal Republican. They liked him. And Toni Morris, which was the kind of the creator of everything, MC, he was the MC. He did a lot. So there was a big salute for him. So this changed my whole production and concert and museum life at the World Beat Center. Because now I know people don't know enough about Nina Simone or Muddy Waters or John Lee Hooker and all those people that I knew about because my parents knew about them. So I want to see, you know, jazz section, blues section, section on ragtime, because we did Scott Joplin. He invented ragtime. And so some of the things that, an opera singer, Leontine Price. So, some of the things that Black artists in music, accomplished. Louis Armstrong, he was so revolutionary because they really wanted to get Louis. And Billie Holiday, which they did, and they banded her because the song she wrote was Strange Fruit. She saw one day they were driving in the South and she saw 3 brothers being hung on a tree, and she wrote Strange Fruit. And when she died, she didn't even have a headstone. Janis Joplin came and gave her a headstone. So the music industry, how beautiful it is.
And you're right. There, a lot of these expressions that were, founded and based in the Black experience, blues, jazz, what's another one that's been co-opted by the Anglo, musicians. Because like I was saying, if you see blues on the radio or on tour, it's usually an Anglo blues player, or jazz. It's a lot of white guys in jazz that get promoted. You don't see as many, Black jazz musicians being promoted as you did even 30 years ago.
Downtown, all white jazz.
Yeah, San Diego.
And then it got to be Kenny G, or Lights Out. Right. They closed all the straight ahead jazz stations all down in New York and everything. So it's the watered down jazz is the most popular jazz, background jazz. They don't have, people don't know about John Coltrane, Alice Coltrane, right. But really deep, Ahmad Jamal or McCoy Tyner, so that's why I always have these, we just have big celebration for John Coltrane and Alice Coltrane. And the same day, Pharoah Sanders died, which was an incredible musician. Now, all these people I got to meet, also like Sun Ra, so all these deep people had the message. They were Afrofuturists. So you talk about Afrofuturism, it was in the music. They had to leave and go to Japan before they were accepted. Jazz music was not accepted. So so this really changed my life, seeing this, seeing these movies. What I really liked about the Harlem is they had more freedom. Moms, remember, she was selling her Kool-Aid, her lemonade and fried chicken. So they were making money there. In LA, it was a lot more tighter, so you could see, that the Blackness was not controlled in Harlem.
Right, because it was what it says. It was a community cultural festival, and it happened the same. It was over 6 days, and one of those weekends was the same weekend that Woodstock happened. So it got like totally obliterated in the press. But they were saying there were like 50,000 people there. You're right. It's in the community. It's people from the community. They know each other. They walk the same street. So you have that sense of safety and of belonging. And the one in LA, the Coliseum, is surrounded by a huge parking lot. It's gated, it's fenced, and you're not really in the community. You're kind of, it's like an island. But just to see how controlled the audience was, they're having a good time in the seats, but it's a different thing to be 500 feet from the stage and being told, if you get on the grass, the performers won't perform, than to say, yeah, come right up to the front of the stage. We trust each other. We know each other. And that's community, like your festivals. Now we can talk about, your center and your festivals. It's just like that. You see in your background there, the lawn in Balboa Park, you have the festivals right there and people are sitting there on the stage. They're happy. You've got vendors. You've been showcasing, like we said earlier, work from the diaspora, and including up to, recent Haitian immigrants, but you now have opened up a museum too.
Yes, the museum is very incredible, and it really shows that I always want to see, because I grew up here, and I grew up on Logan Avenue, Logan and Marcy, and Barrio Logan and Logan Heights. So I always wanted to see the connections and continue the brother and sisterhood of the Latinx people. And I go to Peru, and I with reggae music, it's, reggae's everywhere, and especially in Latin America. So I was able to bring Cultura Profética, Los Cafres, Alica, so all this reggae in Espanol, and just, have it a center in Tijuana and in Ensenada. So it brings us all together, because once we're together, if we have love for each other and love for our community, we'll have unity. And if we have unity, we'll have freedom. And that's what freedom is coming from, changing, loving ourselves inside. It's not going to be any politician. It's not going to be outside. It's going to be in our art, our dance, and our music. And we have to keep on holding onto our music, because there was a musician, his name was Little Richard. And he would always say, "You're stealing my music. What?" He'd be just telling people off on TV, and they go, "Oh, here's Little Richard. He's telling them." Because he would make Tutti Frutti, and then Pat Boone would make Tutti Frutti. And they'll play Pat Boone, but they wouldn't play Little Richard. And so you've seen that, growing up so much, that our music was colonized. And our goal is not to let our music be colonized. Sono Rocho in La Jolla, it's great, but it needs to be in the community too, or give community passes to people. So, we need to keep our music and our art from being colonized. As soon as they see it, they got their hands on it. So now they got their hands on Afrobeat music. So let's see what happens.
Yeah, and your center, like we were talking about the cultural diversity of Harlem with the Nuyorican and the Panamanians and whatnot, other cultures coming in. But your center really is where you see that in San Diego, where you've got people, immigrants, refugees, people from the Chicano community, Mexican community, people from this, South Bay, and what used to be called East San Diego, and Balboa Park, and people that are into the environment, environmentalists. Also, it's a place where everyone can come, and you present artists from and Native Americans. You present there, so it's a very welcoming space. The World Beat Center in Balboa Park, worldbeatcenter.org. So let's see some of you sent us some clips of some of your recent festivals. Let's take a look at one of them. You have a big one coming up, which is an annual festival, Earth Day. And that is on Earth Day, which I think falls on the 22nd this year. So
we'll be on the 23rd.
On the Sunday.
Yes.
Okay. Always a good time. And are you having the stage outside or is it inside?
Yeah. No, well, outside and inside.
Okay.
And we'll be jamming in the garden too. We have a big garden out there too.
All right. So here we have a bit of last year's Earth Day. And I want to say that the World Beat Center is also really forward thinking in its use of technology. They have an internet, they have a radio station with a radio license. They have an internet video channel where they show a lot of their pieces. So here we go.
Father, Jehovah by my side. Liberate me now from all these enemies and play this funky reggae for I love these junkies.
All right, so that's that looks like San Diego to me, right there.
Yeah, those kids, those kids are South Bay kids. A lot of them in the band grew up with listening to me and Reggae Makossa, huge. They turned out to be really incredible musicians. And a group from San Diego is Tribal Seeds. They came from San Diego. They're big right now. And one of the biggest groups too are from San Diego, Ocean Beats, Slightly Stoopid. And so, we have, and that's from listening to us, Reggae Makossa, and growing up. So
and don't forget Kino.
How can I forget my son, Kino from Big Mountain, which is touring right now. I'm very close to Kino, so he's one of my favorites, and so a lot of music has, came out of San Diego. And I remember me and Kino, to get the name, we were on Big Mountain, trying to save Big Mountain from Peabody Coal Company. Remember that? They were trying to take over.
The Dene, right?
Yeah, the Dene people. And we were everybody, monks, everyone went to save Big Mountain. So when we got back, the band was formerly named Shiloh. And he goes, what should I name? I'll change the name. And everybody said, Big Mountain. So that's it.
Yeah, and they had a number of hits too. And did you remember? Well, the B-side players are still around, but do you remember Elijah Emanuel and the Revelations?
Ooh, another one, another close one. Yeah, Elijah that's incredible. He was an incredible kid too, because he started. I couldn't believe he played his first show at Earth Day, and he sat up there with his little guitar. Yeah, so God, I mean, his music. It was incredible. I hope he comes back again on the stage of reggae music.
Yeah, and you just pointed out a really important fact is that having a space like yours where people can see this and talk to the musicians, and like I used to do when I was younger, is go to a concert and just get in the front row and look at the guitarist's hands. Like that's all I did for the whole show. To figure out how they're playing, to ask them, how did you do that? What effects do you use? What's your settings? That's very important that you can't get, unless you have that access to the living culture, to the people that are the not just the innovators, but the people that are the traditionalists, who learned from the previous generations to pass it down. Very important. So as we wind up the conversation, do you want me to show another clip? You had Third World, Try Jah Love. Do you want me to show that?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, and then we'll
old clips, man. I'm jamming,
Yeah, no, we want to, because because it's Black History Month, we want to celebrate, Black history, but it's a living history. All of our cultures are living histories. So you need to understand where you came from to know where you are and where you're going. But these two documentaries in particular, I was thinking, what are we going to do? Like, what are we going to show? What are we going to talk about? But they're so critical to watch. If you're in the Black community, or to understand America, because all you got to do is look at Jesse Jackson in 1969 and Jesse Jackson in 1972 in the documentaries, and you see what we're talking about. And so I'm going to show this. I'm going to get some closing comments from you, and I'm going to show the opening of Wattstax, which actually has Jesse Jackson's big famous Wattstax speech that I think is important to end with as a point of departure for keeping this conversation going of why these films are important to watch. But first we'll watch Third World, Try Jah Love here.
Oh,
Okay, so that's an example of
A parent's worst fear is
one of
to
the
have their children.
concerts that you produce. So tell me some final thoughts before we go to the Jesse Jackson speech. Well, you already mentioned your experience of watching the films anew, and how that might change some or bring some new programming to the World Beat Center. But so what are your final thoughts on our discussion on Black History Month?
Hold on to our culture, all cultures, and Black history is not just 1 month. It's every day is Black history. It starts January 1st, December 31st, and ends January 1st. So we have to hold on to, I'm really seeing that our culture is leaving, and I'm trying to really educate people. It's all of our culture. Black history is world history, because if one time one of the great leaders said, and he was a great Cuban leader, and he said, if you think you're white, let me see your grandmother, and Latino, and that's really for Latino and Latinx history. Because if you look back and you look and you see some curly hair. Well, my grandmother's from Guerrero. Okay, So, but it's been whitewashed, that we're ashamed of the Blackness that is within us. So I'm saying, especially to my Latinx brothers and sisters, the Mayans, and the enslaved Africans were even united at one time fighting the conquistador, and just keep that, learn history, learn our true history, not his story, but our story, and hold into our music, hold into our culture. And I really, I'm urging everyone to take care of their consciousness, and meditate and eat properly, so we can be here for our children, our cousins, our nieces, whatever, so we can be here to see the consciousness raised of our people. They're taking books out of libraries. They're banning Audre Lorde or Gwendolyn Brooks, Alice Walker. Books that are essential to our history. So they're taking them out of libraries and everything. So you be awake and see what's going on. And you'll know what's going on by going inside your body temple. Take care of your body temple. There's a Chinese proverb, and it was, it's, to win is to outlast them. And that's what we've done in Balboa Park. And the way you outlast them is take care of your body temple, take care of your mind consciousness. And then we're able to not be greedy like them, and be loving. And when I say, and I'm talking, our white brothers and sisters, thank you so much. Our European brothers and sisters that been right beside us. But I'm talking to my people right now, brown, black, BIPOC, Filipino. And if you know what's going down in Papua New Guinea, Africa, they're, all over the world. So you have to get serious. And our music is a way that in art, that we can get through. But, war, no one wins in war. And music is the weapon.
It's beautiful. And also knowing that a lot of these artists that we're talking about that you present are very conscious of the fact that their music is about nourishing the community, giving back, re-nourishing the soil for the next generation. Whereas, corporate artists, are more concerned with selling records, selling $100, $150 shoes, or selling $150 concert tickets, where a lot of your events are free. A lot of our events are free because we want people to see them. We want these connections to happen. So let's play Jesse Jackson's the opening speech that he gives to Wattstax and see if what he's saying isn't relevant to us just as much today. And here we go.
This is a beautiful day. It is a new day. It is a day of black awareness. It is a day of black people taking care of black people's business. Today, we are together. We are unified and on one accord. But when we are together, we got power and we can make decisions. Today on this program, you will hear gospel and rhythm and blues and jazz. All those are just labels. We know that music is music. All of our people got a soul. Our experience determines the texture, the taste, and the sound of our soul. We say that we may be in the slum, but the slum is not in us. We may be in prison, but the prison is not in us. In what we have shifted from burn, baby, burn to learn, baby, learn. We have shifted from having a seizure about what the man got to season what we need. We have shifted from bed bugs and dog ticks to community control and politics. That is why we gather today to celebrate our homecoming and our own sense of somebodyness. That is why I challenge you now to stand together, raise your fists together, and engage in our national black litany. Do it with courage and determination. I am somebody. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody. I may be on welfare, but I am somebody. I may be unskilled, but I am somebody. I am black, beautiful, proud. I must be respected. I must be protected. What time is it? When we stand together, what time is it? When we say no more yes to both, what time is it? What time is it? What time is it? Sister Kim Weston, the Black National Anthem.
Okay, there you go. That's again 1972, talking right directly to us. Oops. From Los Angeles, Southern California, Black community. Those people are grandparents, great-grandparents now. You weren't at the concert because you were producing your own concerts in San Diego, Makeda.
Yeah, nation time, though. That's what time it is. And that's what time it is still now, this present moment and forever. So we have to continue to rise up, all of us together. And that's so important and we got to give Jesse Jackson the homage because he works right now. He had COVID and he's out of it, him and his wife. So after that, I haven't seen him. He was very serious. He went to convalescent hospital, the last. And so we have to give prayers to, our giants. So, and then another thing is, don't sell out. It might be hard. You might have to, walk the road of suffering for a while, but, suffering is where we learn. That's where we get our stripes, where we can go through that suffering. And there's always lessons. Not always we should be searching for comfort. And we got to go, whatever it is, stay in the present moment, because that's it, And if it's bad, still, it's got to move, keep moving, and stay Black until we get back.
All right. And if you're in San Diego or traveling to San Diego and you want a taste of what Black History Month every day of the year looks like, go to the World Beat Center, worldbeatcenter.org. They have, like I said, not just the programming, the music programming, drum classes and youth classes. They work with the schools. They've got a museum. They also have a garden, of plants and foods that are not only, local, indigenous, but also from the different African communities that make up African cuisine. So, and they have, I forgot to mention, probably, enough reason to visit the center on its own is they have a restaurant that's a vegetarian restaurant that's really great African and Creole, I think, foods, but very authentic, very tasty, and worth a trip. Just for the food. If you're hungry for some good African food, come to the World Beat Center. What is the restaurant called again?
One World Beat Cafe.
One World Beat Cafe. I can testify the food is great. So thank you, Makeda. It's always great talking to you, and thank you for joining us for this talk about Black History Month and the importance of music festivals, not just the ones that we saw that had a lot of financing, but the ones that can be put on in any community in the country, and also support the organizations like the World Beat Center that bring it to you and fight the good fight every day to keep the culture alive and accessible and relevant. So thank you, Makeda.
All power to the people.
Thank you all for listening, and we look forward to you. Check out our programming in Media Arts Santa Ana at masamedia.org, and we have our Media Arts-based TVGBs in Santa Ana on the corner of 17th and North Main, 1666 North Main, across the street from Norm's. We have some great programming happening there throughout the year. So have a wonderful day and enjoy the rest of Black History Month, and then we'll see you again, Makeda, on Earth Day.
See you then. Thank you. And thanks for all the work that Kosha and the Media Arts Center and you, Victor, you do in that city. And thank you so much for keeping up the fight. Thank you.
Thank you.